Well, Lucas, I'm glad you could join for this conversation. I'm excited to glean from your learning. I always feel like as I get to do these interviews, it feels like free consulting that I get to experience. But also it's great. It's blessing to our community. So we're going to be talking about B2B sales for SaaS startups and SaaS companies. And so yeah, Lucas, will you introduce yourself? Kind of tell us a little bit about your experience in this space.
Yeah, thank you, David. So yeah, my name is Lucas Muniz, and I currently have my own business. It's called Sales Network LLC, and the business is a consulting for SaaS companies who want to scale their sales. And doesn't matter, no matter what growth stage this startup is at. We basically find out exactly where you are, what the best next steps are going to be, and even if it relates to, let's say, if you need some help that's not specifically for sales, we partner up with whoever is needed the most. Let's say a marketing agency, if that's the case, or just guide you to the next step if we can help. But usually, there's always something sales related that needs to get done, before the company reaches that next stage. So yeah, I've been working in sales for the last 20 plus years. I used to work even, when I was a teenager with my dad, and worked in different industries and myriad different industries. Worked in tech long time ago. The times of, not sure if anyone is here familiar with Borland, Cool Gear. That's when I was introduced to tech sales, and then I worked in different industries and came back. So I chose software as a service, B2B, just because I noticed that a huge amount of, let's say, majority of cases, the processes can be replicated. And even with all the personalization, even all with the nuances of each case, at least, let's say, the rules that I talk with, they usually apply pretty well across, across all the different SaaS products. So yeah, I'm here matching challenges with tech solutions.
No, I love that, Lucas. And I appreciate that. Yeah, like you calling out even that, yeah, while each of our businesses we have like nuances and unique things about them, but those same principles, just like in our framework, the same principles of growth apply at different stages. Same thing you're saying. It's like, hey, you may be offering a different product or a different promise, but the process, the principles of sales, and especially these B2B SaaS sales, they apply broadly. And so you're helping people see through all of the chaos and clutter and go, hey, these are the things that you need to double down on. This is how we're going to help you get there. And that clarity is so valuable. So I'm excited. Let's just kind of dive in to talk through some of these stages here. Our next stage is discovery. So after we have existential, you kind of graduate from existential with what we call a solution statement, where it's a statement that frames all those things of who am I helping, what problem am I solving, how am I uniquely better. So that solution statement is kind of how you graduate out of existential. But then when you come into discovery, what we're trying to say is, okay, with that solution, what's the offer I'm making? And really dialing in like, what is that promise for a price type of offer that's irresistible? And we graduate from discovery when we've really validated that offer. And most often that's validating with like our ideal client saying yes to the offer. It's at whatever threshold, and different people have different, risk tolerances. So some people are like, hey, I got one yes. I would probably say you want that in multiples. But also, and we're talking about SaaS, because it may be like, okay, the yes is people pre-ordering, maybe. The yes might be people engaging in a beta or something like that. It could be still early in that sense. Or you might be further down where you're like, okay, I have a sellable element and I want to see if people will buy that and use it. And so you're getting to that point where you go, okay, I know I have something that is ready to sell. That's really what we say when we exit discovery. It's like I have a validated offer that's ready to sell. Because in the next stage, we're going to start ramping up the revenue.
Okay.
So in this stage is they're really discovering what is that irresistible offer. What are some of the sales questions or maybe even pitfalls that people should be aware of as they consider this in the B2B SaaS sales space?
Yeah, I mean, you already touched some very important points that because when we're talking about the sales perspective of a startup, it's it's intrinsically connected to the business itself, right? To because we talk about value proposition, validating the value proposition, that's absolutely sales, right? And so that's what this stage seems to be like, seems to be focused on. Sorry with my wording, with my phrasing, because I didn't prepare a whole thing.
No, you're good.
But
That's
yeah,
great.
but it's all about the value proposition. And for me specifically, this one is extremely exciting because that's when you actually start incorporating the sales part of the thing. You're gonna actually build a sales pitch. So now you already, let's say, interviewed a lot of people. You kind of have a grasp of what's interesting for them, and you have an idea why. So you know that you solve for some problem, and you know that people do value something that you're building. Of course, I imagine at this stage is exactly when you came with a viable product. So that part of the a little part of the existential is still there in terms of you keep doing the customer research, you keep using the empathy and interviewing skills to keep, let's say, bettering your pitch. But at this process, that's when you actually got to granulate, got to be really specific about what value you provide. And to do that, it's not only about the user anymore. You got to start thinking about the decision making process. So, okay, I already identified some of my possible users. They really like the capabilities that I came up with, that and the features, and I'm still gathering more information on what they like the most. But I already know that I provide some value to them. So those are the users. Are those the only decision makers? Are those the only key stakeholders? So coming from the perspective of the sale now that there is way more, let's say, sales process building at this stage than the previous stage, you got to ask yourself, what who makes a difference in the decision making process for this particular product. So now you got to ask yourself, okay, so this person, the user, you let's say that you made a profile, and hey, I think that those titles right here are the most important users, let's say this way. Now, how does a company decide about yeah, paying for a software like this? Does this person, the user, has the power of decision, or do they have to talk to their boss? And then you got to do the reverse engineering when it comes to to the sales part of things. So instead of thinking like, oh, this is my pitch, my product is awesome because we do this, actually you got to do the whole reverse thing. Okay, so how does my product provide value, and how can I put a number on it? Let's talk about ROI. Why do you have to talk about return on investment? Because if that user is not the main decision maker of the product, they got to explain to their bosses why they what they want, why they need that product. And for their bosses, it cannot just be like, oh, it's easier, it's better than the previous one. No, it cannot be something like this. So they got to be your champion. So first, of course, you got to sell to your user, sell the idea to your user, and you already know why they like. Now try to make in words that that affect their lives directly. Let's say that, I don't know, you no matter what industry you did, let's say that your software eliminate swivel chair processes. Basically, just it helps with cost savings initiatives. It's process improvement, right? I'm saying something general because a lot of softwares they do that. They improve processes. So we're talking about your champion here, right? The user. So let's phrase in a way that he will be your champion. So, okay, it's not about features and capabilities anymore. You're giving time back to this person. So tie this to something emotional. Um, is this person going to have more time so they can spend more time with their family at the end of the day? Because that might be a great selling point. That's not only about feature. A lot of companies, they only do feature selling. You go to their websites, and the only thing that the salespeople say or the marketing says, it's only about like, we can do this better than that. But actually, what people see those features and capabilities, they see as a user, they see as, oh my God, I'm going to save 1 hour per day on this. I can go to my son's soccer game or something, so that's the wording that you're going to use to help, let's say, to come to attract to make your champion. That user, he got to care so much about your features and capabilities because it affects their lives, in a way that it really matters for their happiness. Like giving 1 hour back a day for, I don't know, a programmer or whoever, like for a leader in the whatever your product solves. So okay, so then you gotta remind them that all the time. So hey, you're gonna have some time back. So I wonder if you can help me talk to your boss about it. And so you gotta ask specifics about that. How much time do you think you're gonna save per day? And if they say like, oh my God, I started using the aerial beta version, I'm already saving 1.5 hours off my day. Okay, and then you try to get other KPIs. What else you are experiencing that's better, and that we can bring a number out of it. So it might be the I don't know, they have some reports that are more accurate. Oh, that can go way further when it comes to KPIs, because then you can ask, okay, so um what does that make it better? If the reports are more accurate, you can dig more and more with those discovery questions, to actually understand the impact that your tool will have for that person, for that department, for the whole company. Sometimes it's difficult, without, let's say, without having the first adopters actually um, showing those numbers, actually grasping those numbers. So this is the stage that you already found some of your champions, and you got to ask them for this favor. It's not a favor because they're also getting something out of it, right? If possible, if you have to use your bargain in terms of, oh, hey, you're going to be a free user as long as you provide me all the stats, like what got better, so I can use that in my favor, and to succeed. So yes, I think that's a very important part of it. It's discovering how you impact the those companies, those people's lives, because once that you translate those numbers into KPIs, oh, then the thing becomes really fun, because then you're gonna talk to their boss about, hey, um, you know, I asked blah 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 about what are the most repetitive tasks, about the time savings, and it seems like you guys could prevent some inaccuracy, some time waste, and that also means cost of labor. And I got the numbers and blah blah blah, so we can actually save you 20% of time of those titles.
Mhm.
And that's going to save you, that amount of money when it comes to cost of labor and the inaccuracy, problem that could go in a whole different rabbit hole that you can get even more numbers and more numbers. That means money to them. So that's the point where you are asking a lot of questions, taking a lot of notes, making those numbers become attractive to whoever the decision maker is going to be.
Mhm. No, it's really good, Lucas. I like you're basically creating these user champions, like you called them. Like you have your users that you're like, okay, let's make your life a lot better. But then how do I make you a champion for this solution that you're providing for your SaaS solution so that they can pitch it to their bosses? And you can basically, in a sense, you're kind of like, hey, I want your life to keep staying easy. And so let's work together to both together convince your boss this is the way to go. I like how you called out. It's like, okay, yeah. I mean, we talk a lot about like, okay, what are the benefits? What's the impact of those benefits? What's the value? How do you quantify value around that impact? And so even as you're talking about some of the benefits, I mean, there's an aspect of ROI, like just how much money or time you're going to save, how it might improve quality, or you talked about accuracy. I was even thinking like, hey, some things reduce risk because it's like, hey, this eliminates. We often have this kind of mistake in our business process. This new software eliminates that because it eliminates whatever that point of confusion internally
Yeah,
as or something like that. One thing that I thought about even is like, okay, how do you help the decision maker identify the value of those benefits? Is like you're saying like, hey, maybe it's a 20%, it's saving someone an hour a day or an hour and a half a day. To be able to ask whoever that decision maker manager is, like, hey, what would you do with 20% more capacity in your business?
exactly.
What would be possible with
You
that?
got it. Yep.
Where it's like, hey, yeah, sure, it can save you money. We're all about saving money, but it's like, hey, what's on your important list that's just not getting done, but could get done if you had
Shoot.
20% more capacity across this section of your talent. That now again, just like we're partnering with that user to be on the same team. Now you're on, in a sense, you're positioning with that decision maker to go, hey, how can we use this software to make your business better? And it's like we're not negotiating, we're working together for a shared solution. And I like how you even called out like working with that user to identify, hey, what are the KPIs y'all are tracking? What does your boss care about right now? And it's like, okay, can we describe our offer in those terms? Because if you force really anyone, any of your customers, whether it's the user or the decision maker, if you're making them translate, you're making them do too much mental work that you're going to lose a lot of sales. And I know you know that, but I'm just naming that for our audience where it is. It's like part of what that research you're talking about is to get the language right so that they don't have to translate. Like you're saying, oh, you have this benefit. And they're like, okay, how does that benefit actually help me in my business? But if you've done that research to understand, hey, what are the KPIs that really matter to the decision makers at my ideal companies to do business with, then you kind of have the secret decoder ring to figure out how do I make my offer irresistible, where
Exactly.
they hear it and they go, oh yeah, that's obvious, we definitely want
The
that.
example you just said, that the example you said about once that you get to their boss,
Mhm.
yeah, for their boss, you got to know their KPIs. So it's not only about the time saving, but what would you do with 20% more capacity? So yeah, thank you for making my message concise. That was just perfect. Yes.
No, it's good. I love how, yeah, I can see, as you're talking it through, like your experience really coming out in there of being able to work with many different SaaS businesses as they bring, their products to market. So, okay, so that's discovery. So we end discovery with a clear, sellable, ready to sell, irresistible offer. I just want to say thank you for spending this time and really blessing our community with your expertise. And I'm glad you're with us on the platform so people can come and find you if they want more and really get to leverage your expertise. So I appreciate it.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to doing more of these type of things together in the future.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Also, we passed the time quite a bit.
Yeah.
Appreciate the conversation, and thank you as well for being a great host and for making my messages a little concise, a little more concise. Thank you very much.
No, I love it. That's awesome.